Hello, guys. It's David Vos here, and boy, it's a beautiful morning. It's foggy and hazy and rainy. Rained last night. Just gorgeous, not real cold. Well, didn't do a video yesterday. It was just I just really didn't know what to say. I mean, it's like we've already thrown out all the cards. There's not much going on the news on the weekend because Trump's got to wait till Monday to start filing some more lawsuits and so forth. And this is going to take a few days. And of course, meanwhile, the media is trying to make us believe that there's nothing to see here and that Joe Biden is our next president. I don't know whether to say I can't wait to see what they're going to do when they lose, or when I should say I can't wait to see what's going to happen. But then again, I'm not sure I want to see what's about to happen, because we saw the whole impeachment thing. We've seen what they did in 9/11. There's nothing that these people will not do. Now we've found out that these machines that they've put in to throw the election were created probably by, well, we know who made them. It's this group of individuals that own the world. They have all the money. Anybody who thinks, oh, well, it was the U.S. government, or it was Canada, or it was the Saudi Arabians, it was, it was the Muslims, or it was the minorities. They're stupid. They're rich, or, the white, whitey did it. It was not anybody. We're all just people who want to get along. It wasn't the Germans. It was a group of Germans. It may not even really be Germans. This video is not going to get into how they got there, but there's a group of people over there that are running the world. They have a lot of money. And so I don't really know what we're about to go through, what we're about to get into, because this is really going to get serious, because it's like we're watching a chess match, and it's like one guy starts running the table, taking all their pawns and a couple of rookies, and you're like, oh man, this guy's good. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the other side's sitting over there going, just luring a man, you took my knight, huh? What I wanted you to do. And then boom, they've cornered your queen, and the next move is checkmate or something. And you're thinking, wow, this is how this guy does. There is a group of people that have essentially checkmate on us, because they own the media. They have control of this. I don't know what's more important, that they have all the money in the world and the media and all of that. But what's even more important is that they've created a way of life that we can't live without. Most people cannot live in the natural world anymore. We're like domesticated humans. And we've gone from just, you ever hear the old term that people that do heroin or crack or something, they're always pursuing they're always pursuing that one real high. And I'm not really sure what that means exactly, because I can smoke cannabis and get some idea of that, because when you first really get a good hit of cannabis and you really get high, it's a really wonderful feeling. And then you think you're going to try and do that again, and unless you use balance, and if you're smoking all night and all day and all night and all day cannabis, eventually it doesn't have the same kind of feeling that you had originally. The initial high, you're always chasing that. And so some people get on heroin and they have this first experience with, or I guess this, I've never done heroin or crack or any kind of illegal drug, but it's probably such an amazing high that they think, well, that's what it does when I do it, so I'm going to do it again. But the next time's not quite as good, and the next time's not quite as good, and then they're always, So I don't know if I've described that very well, because like I said, I'm not really someone that would fully understand that. But I think I understand what it is. It's that, human beings, that we're living in this world and we're not happy with the system. But we're addicted to the drugs that they're giving us. We don't want to be high on drugs. We don't want to be sick in the hospital, but we can't stop taking the heroin or the crack or the methamphetamines or whatever it is that we're hooked on. So society has become an addiction, a drug, and we've got a bunch of junkies. You can be a food junkie, you can be a drug junkie, and you can be a junkie that just won't let go of your money, most people don't even have a luxury apartment or a luxury car or anything nice. But we have heat, a little apartment, 4 white walls, a kitchen to cook in. A lot of people are in HUD housing, or, they're renting something in a small town that's an old rundown house, but they've got electricity and the comforts of heat in their home, and getting in a nice car and driving and going places and watching television, baseball, football, all of this lifestyle. We've become so addicted to it. And then there's another thing where I think this has been going on for a long time, this slow dribble of lies that we've been taught. Now, you could go all the way back with religion itself, which was the opium of the people, as some wise philosophers have said. Religion is the opium of the people. Another very wise man, I think he was wise. He was probably kind of stupid too, because he was the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'm not sure. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and they're very, very terrible organization, a cult. But when they originally started, they were Bible students. They didn't have this control. They didn't do all this disfellowshipping, and originally they were called Bible students, and they just went and studied in people's homes. They didn't even have a church. They didn't believe in church. So I think originally the Bible student organization was probably good. Charles Taze Russell studied the Great Pyramids and a lot of interesting things. He might not have been such a bad guy, although there's some reason to believe that he was involved in something. We know he was a Freemason, but that may not be such a bad thing, because like I say, the founding fathers were Freemasons. And I believe Joseph Smith, his father, and his brothers and stuff were Freemasons. Now, not this other organization called the Illuminati that infiltrated at that time, began infiltrating Freemasons, and now what we have today is very difficult to figure out what's going on because of all the shadow government involved in the other governments and stuff. Like, you could say, well, I believe in the America, right? What are you talking about? The America that we're talking about now, all this corruption? No, I don't believe in that. That's a corporate capitalism or something. No, I believe in the Constitution as it was written, and I believe that Freemasons originally come from the Fisher Kings, and they were protecting the Holy Grail. They were Knights of the Round Table. This all got started from Lazarus, was the first knight that protected his daughter, Mary Magdalene. Anyway, so it's like a drug. And the opium of the people is religion. But then because of the Constitution and the right to not have to go to church, okay, it's not the right to go to any church we want, like people think. They've turned that around. It's the right not to go to church, because we were fleeing persecution. And that's what the Constitution did for us. So we came over here and we decided not to be Catholic. Some of us joined Protestant organizations and groups. What we didn't realize was they were just revamped, some sort of lie cult, many of them financed by the elite who were actually financing and had already taken over the Catholic Church long ago. So they brought groups over here to try and get us back to the law so they can get us under their bondage, right? Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists that were trying to go back to the Sabbath, and Herbert Armstrong. They gave him a television program every day on Sunday, right? And he'd get up there and, you've never heard the true gospel in 1,000 years. And, you know, my name is Herbert Armstrong and I'm teaching the truth. That this is the plain truth. So they finance all these organizations, Satanism. And so that twisted our minds a bit. They've got control of our minds. And then, so they've got the control of the cheese going in to the cage, and they got the little wheel in there. And they've also frightened the mouse that there's a cat out there. They better not get out of the cage because there's a cat out there. In our case, they're telling us humans that we could die if we went out into the natural world. So we're scared of all kinds of diseases that probably don't exist. It's all a big fraud. Okay, so they've done all of this for 100 years, and government itself, NASA, is a big hoax. We're all watching the space shuttle and we're thinking, oh, this is amazing. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to go to Mars. And we've already been to Mars for thousands of years. If you go to Google, try this with me. Go on to Google, write in Mars population, click go. According to Google, there's 50 million people on the planet of Mars. You say, well, that's just a technical error, Dave. It's a joke. Okay, maybe. Or maybe they're letting you know that there's people on Mars. Joseph Smith, the prophet, said there were people on the moon and on Mars. And back in 1830, they thought he was crazy. And he said that our Father in heaven lived on a planet called Kolob. Well, for about 150, 200 years, people have been trying to figure out what the heck he was talking about. Well, the Mormon Church doesn't know, and not even the Reorganized Church or anyone else, because he didn't get that out of a book or something. It turns out, though, that, you know, for about 2,000 years, astrology was more or less handled by the Islamic peoples because they were more free and they had great libraries still, like in Constantinople, they had a great library. But in Europe, they burned down all the libraries. They forbade people to study the occult, which just means the hidden wisdom. And they wouldn't let people study astrology. They were considered witches and heretics. So most of the names for the stars are in Arabic. And Islamic peoples were into astrology. So many of the more enlightened peoples during the Dark Ages were Islamic peoples. And they named the star that this whole, you know, when the earth spins and the North Star doesn't seem to move. And all the stars seem like they just revolve around the North Star. Well, that North Star today is Polaris, but every couple of thousand years it moves, and there's a different star that will move into that place. Well, at one time, just a few thousand years ago, the star that is in the center, that was in the center, probably a couple thousand years ago, was a star called Kolob. It's still there, it's just not in the exact center anymore. Because, you know, it wobbles just a little bit, and so every so often a different star goes into the center. So, how did Joseph Smith know that? Well, there's a lot of things that Joseph Smith knew, but that's not what this video is about. But what I'm saying is that we're about to find out what they're going to do, because they've never been exposed to this level. I mean, we're working our way up to a crescendo. The amount of lies and deception and control that the world's been under has just gotten increasingly, exponentially worse and worse, because It's just like when you have clubs and arrows, you can have a war, but the wars get much worse when you start adding bullets and cannons. And then when it goes to tanks, and then to airplanes, and then to missiles, and then to nuclear, and then to biological, chemical, now biological, where they literally are trying to biologically supplant us. So here we are at this great moment in time when the next step is total assimilation of human beings. We ain't got no more room to play. The next step is total assimilation. If they win this election, I believe that there's only one other possible thing that could happen. And that would be that our Father in heaven, or Jesus, or, under our Father in heaven's command, just comes down here and says, okay, enough is enough. And he delivers us from all of this. And indeed, that will be what will happen eventually. However, I don't believe that this is going to end this year. I think there's going to be a great tribulation. I believe the Lord's going to allow this as a time of decision. And everybody faced with eternal annihilation or suffering or pain, many people will choose to worship the beast, the government. They'll choose to do it out of fear, to feed their families, because they're scared, because they're tired, because they're hungry. And this will show they don't have integrity, because true human beings are different. We're not like animals. We don't just come running to the slaughterhouse because we're hungry. We got a brain. We have to think. But it's worse than that. If cows see their brothers and sisters getting hurt, they run. I mean, sometimes they don't. I'm not, okay, let's clear up that. I mean, that's not true. But I'm saying there is a difference. I mean, animals can't sit and philosophize and ponder and, maybe sacrifice their life. I even take that back, because I've seen animals sacrifice their lives for their fellow animals. I've seen dogs fight to the death for their I can't even think of the word, their pack. I've seen a big buck up on a hill in the Teton National Park in Idaho. This big old buck with some big old horns. She was standing up on a hill, and she was looking up there with her horns and just kind of almost giving out a cry. And you could see it had just snowed. It was a lot of snow, and it was just a trail of blood leading down to the bottom of the hill, where his, I assume his wife had gotten picked off by the pack of wolves. And this, you could tell with the blood and everything, it was everywhere. And the buck wasn't running. He was standing there trying to stop them from taking. And it was an amazing, amazing ordeal fight. But the buck could have ran, but he didn't run. So I take that back. Animals do have a lot of heart and courage. And sometimes they have more courage than the humans. But there are the average human, if not brainwashed from the time that they're born. Humans have a natural thing called love, because we have the divine nature, and we do not leave our babies behind, most of us, unless we're highly compromised, which is what many of the people in this world are right now. They've been brainwashed for hundreds of years. They don't see a way out. They're compromised. And so some of them have gotten to the point where they're just worthless cowards. And there are people like that. But I believe that most Americans are not cowards. I believe about 80% of the population voted for Donald Trump. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if what we know already for sure turns out to be true. We know already for sure that Donald Trump has reorganized the military this last week under his own command, put in his loyalists. He's not stepping down, and he's going to the Supreme Court. And his lawyer, Sidney Powell, has explained in very great detail how the machines have taken the vote, and how probably we took the House and the Senate and the presidency by a landslide. When they announce that, if it's announced, if the Supreme Court will affirm it, if they can do the proper investigation on these machines, all they got to do is look at them. There's people coming in with affidavits and signed, affidavits and witnesses, testimony coming in, thousands of people all around the world. It has to, when it goes to the Supreme Court, the only way it won't go, and Trump won't overturn this election. Well, it's never been given to Biden yet, so it's not going to be overturned. But in the heart of many, they will think it's been overturned, that Trump is a Hitler or something, and he's stealing the election, when the truth is so obvious that the thievery was going on by the socialists who claim to be Democrats. So when the CNN learns that Trump has won, or that the Supreme Court has declared he won, or the recounts declared he won, or however this turns or plays out, I don't know what they're going to do. Deny it again, as they've been doing. What I wanted to talk about, we've gone 20 minutes just talking about this, but two things I wanted to talk about, and I don't even know if we'll get to the third thing, because it's totally off subject. But the second thing I had in mind to talk about is a lot of people thinking that, well, Trump's probably in on it with him. And I sympathized with people for a long time who thought that. I still sympathize because I know that people are not sure what's going on. And we've never been able to trust any politician ever. And I wouldn't blame you for that. But I want to go over a few things to try and help you understand, put this together in your mind. I was suspicious there for a while myself. I'm still slightly suspicious, and I don't really know why, because we've got all the proof we need for sure that there are two different sides. That alone is enough for me, because I know I don't want that side. I don't want the socialists. Whoever the other side is, we can't be, right? At this point, we don't know. No, but you say, I don't know for sure, who they are. I don't trust him or what. Well, the other side has proven to be liars. And not just one person lied or whatever. The whole party, the whole movement is a lie, deception. They're financing stuff and they don't want you to know it. They pretend that these Antifa and these BLM, well, first of all, they try to make it look like the BLM is trying to help minorities when really they're just burning down the cities and they're just terrorists. And, bringing the people from Honduras and these caravans and all that stuff. How'd they do all this stuff? It's ridiculous. Shooting police in the streets, and how'd they get away with all this? Because same reason that they're claiming they won the vote. The media just says, two for Trump, one for Biden. Oh, Biden wins. How? Because they can just mesmerize us all with lies from every angle. Science, the media, religion, everything. They own it all. They own the banks, your pocketbook. Intimidation. And go around arresting people because they've got authority in just one town or one city, because they've got the chief of police there, and they can use him and the mayor, and they can declare some edict like Newsom does, and then just get the police out and the media stand there taking pictures and beat some poor old lady in the street, and then say, now see, you better do what we say, because next we're going to quarantine the whole world, and then you're going to have to go down in your basement, and we're scared. We'll do whatever, So they've got these tactics. So the only way to stop them is if they had pushed it so far that the whole world woke up and realized who these people are. And then hope that just at the point where we're all waking up, that they don't have some sort of way to just put the iron bars around us and lock the gate and we can't get out. even though we all know we're all aware then, because we're all standing in a concentration camp and we're all like, wait, I told you not to believe these guys. What the heck? Now we're in a concentration. We're all dying now. It's too late. Well, no, I don't think that. That's why I think Trump's got to win, because I see in the book of Revelation that we will have a choice. And if you look on Google right now, according to the Biden team, according to the left, you will have no choice. It will be mandatory, the vaccines. Donald Trump has said several times it will be optional. The other side says we're going to come in and force you. And we're not just getting reports, but it's now been confirmed that it is nothing good. You don't want to take this thing. And most people know that now. And this is why they have to have total control or they can't pull it off. And if Donald Trump wins, then I'd like to see what's about to happen, because I think only I can think of is a couple scenarios that they retain power in California, New York, and some kind of civil war, or they just leave the country and set up their one world government in Israel or Switzerland or somewhere, and we're dealing with them that way. That somehow half the country is trying to pull off another coup for another 4 years here in America. I don't know what's about to happen, but I do know that they'll probably just bypass all of this political stuff and they'll just start rioting in the streets and burning things down and declaring pandemics. And maybe, remember the first thing that Jesus said would happen is war. So I think one of the first things that will happen is that Israel will be attacked, and there'll be a huge mind manipulation with all of people to try and get us forget about all the stuff we went through. And now there's a war over here. It's like, oh no, now we got to back the Democrats because, try to make us believe that. I don't know, but there's going to be a huge war, and it's going to have to be something big. They can manipulate us, just like in using Pearl Harbor to get us go over there in World War II, or 9/11 to get us go over to Iraq. So what big illusion are they going to come up with? If they lose the presidency, what big illusion are they going to come up with? A fake invasion from the stars, or I guarantee there will be war. The first thing after the Antichrist arises, and we know who he is war, the first horseman, and then pestilence and famine, and that probably means real pestilence this time. Hurricanes, earthquakes in one place after the other, Jesus said, in the Great Tribulation, which has never happened on the earth before, nor ever will again. And if he didn't bring it to a close, no flesh would be saved. This is where we're going, friends. And I think Trump will win because, as I've said, I believe the Constitution is a divine document. I believe we're going to look back in 100 years from now and we're going to see that the date 1776 was a very pivotal date, and it will be the document that will be the basis of the millennial reign of Christ. Will be the Constitution. Of course, there's going to be several documents. The most important one will probably be certainly the gospel. Jesus' Mount of Olivet speech. Blessed are the peacemakers. And that was basically Jesus coming down off the mountain and giving us the law of love. And it will be based on that, because that was the new covenant. But the Bible does say that he will make a new covenant with us again in the latter days. And this next one that's coming up is going to be a covenant of peace with even the animals. And this is talking about in Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Isaiah. A covenant of peace with the animals, so that there will be no more death. But that comes after 1 hour of judgment that is woe unto the earth and for the sea, the devil has come down unto you. And that's what we're about to go through. And so I'm not really looking forward to the Great Tribulation, because I know that it's going to be very difficult for my brothers and sisters around the world. But I do believe that we have to understand that the judgments that are coming are to get rid of this old system. It's got to be done. We can't, if it didn't happen, we'd all be sucked in and assimilated, and we'd lose our eternal soul. But that can't happen, because our Father in heaven is taking care of us and watching us, and he won't let this darkness sweep the earth. But But he also wants us to stand up, to be a vehicle for love. He told us to use our talents wisely. So what I wanted to talk about, and I still haven't gotten to, and that's about 30 minutes, is, all right, so for those of you who think that Trump might actually be in on it, here's my take on this. Start off and you say, well, we don't know, because they're always doing this Hegelian thing where it's, Democrat and Republican and communism and capitalism. And so, okay, so maybe they're just pretending that, the Democrats are playing one part and Obama or Trump's playing another part, and it's all a big lie, and it's just suckering us into this one world government, intimidating us to accept law and order because we're tired of the chaos. Well, I see that scenario, but here's the problem. When Trump was elected, you could tell by the look in their eye that they were surprised. Okay, but of course that's the people, the elite. Who are they? Were they surprised that Trump won, or did they want him to win? Well, let's take a look at Kissinger. Kissinger seems to be the person who if you do a little research, you'll see that Kissinger basically is a mouthpiece for someone. Enough said. And this someone is running the world. And they send in Kissinger. He's sort of like an advisor to our president. Every president meets with Kissinger when he takes office. Trump met with Kissinger when he first went into office. But we haven't heard much about Kissinger since. Kissinger also put into office Putin. You can look that up. But I do not believe, I think for a while some of us were thinking that Putin was a good guy or whatever. Putin is a stable force doing the will of some very powerful elite. He's not just some clever little short guy over there in Russia that's fooling the oligarchy, right? And so when you look at something like that, you say, well, maybe that's what Trump is. He was just put in there by somebody. Well, I do believe that Trump was put in there by somebody. But like we've been saying, there are two different groups. One group that has been fighting the other group for thousands of years and now has a lock on the media and some different very critical aspects of our society. You could go all the way back to the Constitution. You can see that one side, called Freemasons, made a Constitution of liberty and justice for all to get away from the Catholic Church, which was making edicts and paper bulls and inquisitions and sending out the inquisitor to murder us all. And the other group was like fleeing. They massacred them in 1307 in the great Friday the 13th massacre. So we know that there's these two sides at that point. At that point, we know that there was these two sides. And we can follow them from the beginning, before that, and after that. But it appears that most of these good guys that were organized were sort of scattered and massacred and broken up right after the Constitution was signed. And the last of that group went with Joseph Smith. It was a group of these individuals that went west. Joseph Smith was running for president just before he died. Remember, 70,000 people, at that time that was a lot of people, had gone to one little area in Illinois, Nauvoo, Illinois, to stand and support this man. This young man, he spoke very eloquently. He had been known to have raised the dead. There were affidavits signed that said that he, eyewitnesses that said he raised the dead, a man who had been dead for 4 days. And evidently about 2,000 people were healed in one day. And there were other things and visions and prophecies that were all fulfilled that Joseph Smith gave. And other little bits and things that we've talked about that Joseph Smith did. Now remember, Brigham Young's a different rhino. They sent him in, that's the Illuminati, and they took over the Mormon Church. Now today, the Mormon Church, and I believe the same thing happened with Jehovah's Witnesses. As I said, Charles Taze Russell might have been a good guy. But Judge Rutherford, when Charles Taze Russell died, Judge Rutherford, an attorney, a judge, went in and legally took possession of the organization. And it was really unlawfully and illegal, but he was able to do it because he had the power of cheating through the legal system. And through some shenanigans, with money and lawyers, they took over the organization and called it Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's a totally different organization than what it was before. Just as the Mormons today are totally different than what Joseph Smith was talking and doing. Joseph Smith said no polygamy, and they ripped that page out of their book and threw in, you got to be a polygamist. And various other things like that. So we know that the last place that they were hunted down, they were infiltrated. The Pilgrims fled to America. We finally got to America. We made the Constitution. And it was real. This is real. For a lot of you think, it's all just the same old thing. Constitution, whatever. Don't matter. We're all going to die. And blah, 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 blah. Ain't nobody good in this world. It's just all, No, those people were really trying to give you something that would help you. Without that Constitution, we wouldn't have made it this far, my friends. That was divinely inspired. It simply is a document telling us we have inalienable rights. A real historical law set precedents that mankind is free. Without precedents, that's what law is. It's based on, because you can't just make stuff up. Law is based on history, precedents, and that is based on good people coming together and confirming what natural law tells us to do. Now, in the past, we were under this thing called the law. The Apostle Paul says was a bondage and a curse, and Jesus came to deliver us from that system. And I believe that Jesus and those that were working for him, our Father in heaven and our Divine Mother, they're faithfully watching over us and guiding human beings on the course to the great day of decision, because we're the children of the living God. After all, we've got to make our own future. We can't just sit around and let somebody else do it for us, because we are divine. And our Father in heaven has great faith in us as we have faith in him. And we will love because he first loved us. So it came to America, and then where it went after the Constitution was created, we're not sure. Are there any organizations that were free from taint, from the infiltration? Well, probably not. You look at America, and it's still got the Constitution. That's good. Right? We still got a jury of our trials, or a jury of our peers. If we're accused, although they go around with loopholes, we've still got supposedly the Second Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. But really, do we? I mean, in other words, it's all there, but not. Okay, so in other words, they usurp and infiltrate and dilute. So while all of this is going on, I do believe there were always good people that were trying their best to create an organization that was not infiltrated by the bad side. Remember, when the Christianity started, Paul, sent out by Gamaliel, was persecuting Christians until he had an experience with the Lord. Anybody can have an experience with the Lord and change your mind. And I wouldn't be surprised a lot of very high up elite, when they see what's really going on, might say, you know what, I really don't want to be a part of this. I don't think we're going to see a mass repentance, from Bill Gates and Soros and Warren Buffett. But there are some slightly lower level elites that could actually repent and even come out with affidavits and say, look, I can't do this anymore. But that's not what we're hoping for. What I'm saying is that what I want to get to is whether or not we can trust Trump. Well, all that I've said so far is just speculation. We've talked about this to you, as far as you're concerned, you'd like, well, I don't know, you haven't proved anything. All right, let's take it up to the day that Trump was elected. They were surprised. They had gotten control of the media. But who was this guy, Rush Limbaugh, on the radio, right? They got control of the radio. Why did they take control of the radio? The conservatives, Hannity, Ingram, Rush, Levine. Who are these guys? Well, you see, because they didn't have enough money to control the media, the television studios and the Universal Studios in Hollywood. So this other group of billionaires who didn't have quite as much money, they might have at one time, but it goes up and down like this. Because in the last 20 years, remember, Bill Gates went from here, down here with all the other billionaires, and then he just, with Microsoft. And then Warren Buffett, and then Jeff Bezos with Amazon. Well, during Donald Trump's presidency, Elon Musk has gone down here. Wasn't even on the Richter scale, and now he's up here to number 3. So these things happen fast, up and down like that. So in the last 20 years, this one side has gotten a lot of prestige and power because they got a hold of Google, and they got involved in the shadow government controlling all these things. This other group was like, whoa, we're losing power, and everything. And what are we going to do? Because Obama got in and did some shenanigans and helped their people make all this money and made a deal with China so that Amazon could take off and become a zillionaire. And they used this against us. It was a plan, and they did it in just about 20 years, 30 years, with Bill Clinton, Bush, and Obama. It was a plan, the Epstein plan, okay? You understand? The bubble, break the economy, take the people's wealth, bring them under control to a AI system, mass hysteria, mass control, assimilation. Do it before the other side can know what hit them. Well, the other side got hit, boom, and they're like scrambling. The military says we should make a coup right now, take out Obama. We got to stop this. But they said, come up with a better plan than that, because that might not work. We don't want to just do it in a coup. We've got to try to find somebody to put in as president and get the message out to the people and take our country back lawfully and correctly, because we don't be like them. So they did. They chose Trump, I believe. Now, here's the point where a lot of you say, well, how do you know? Prove it. Okay, here's the proof. Here's how you know that Trump's not on their side, the bad side. If you need any proof, we're going to give you at least 10. 1, the impeachment. Now, if you say, well, that was just a scam, they just wanted us to believe they were against Trump, but they're really not, because look, he didn't get impeached, did he? Well, they sure tried, didn't they? Right up to the last minute. And when that's going on, you could say, well, man, this is ridiculous. How could they hate one man so bad? But, maybe it's a scam, right? Maybe it's a scam. Trump's a billionaire. He's probably in on it with him. Okay. Then the Ukraine thing. Then they make up a dossier that says he did all these things and it's totally wrong, and they spy on him, and on and on and on. And they won't let him fire anybody in his cabinet. And they got him hogtied. But he still manages to do more than any other president in recent memory in 4 years. And he doesn't get impeached, and he survives. Why? Because he goes on Twitter and says, oh, that's another scam. They let him get on Twitter. No, they tried to take him off Twitter. They haven't banned any of Joe Biden's ads, but they keep banning the president's. They're citing think about this. All of the media is sided with Trump, or sided with Biden and against Trump. It's unfair. He said, well, that's what they want, Dave. They want us to think that Trump's really good, but he's really bad. And so therefore they let Trump lose. And, it's kind of like the scenario where if you see somebody getting hurt and then you start feeling sorry for him, and then, well, if they were that smart, if they were that powerful, that they could manipulate it to that extent, don't you think they wouldn't have chose Trump? They would have chose Harry Belafonte, or they would have chose some slick, Robert Redford, or some actor from Hollywood, like they did back in the 80s with Reagan, right? They would have brought somebody out with smooth, never made a mistake. They would have had a whole part of the media telling everybody how wonderful he was and how beautiful he was, and and they would have But Trump comes in, don't even know how to read a prompter, doesn't know anything about politics. He's vulgar. Nobody likes him. He's a billionaire. But I'll be darned if he doesn't keep his promises to the people. And promises that they obviously don't like. See, he was trying to do good things for America. So why would we think, well, see, that's what they really want, to do good things to America, but they're, wait a minute. What did Trump do so great, Dave? Well, he lowered your taxes, tried to make government smaller. He fought the socialists. He made prescription drugs cheaper for you. He didn't go to war with another country when they demanded that he go to war with Syria. He pulled out from Afghanistan. He's trying to get these other countries to pay their fair share, and on and on and on. He's reformed the crime thing, the prison system, and he's done a lot of good things. But you say, yeah, but probably just all made up. All right, now we're down to this place where they had these machines that they built to take out Venezuela and put in this guy named Hugo Chavez, steal all the money from the people. People starved to death. People died. Women were raped and pillaged. People were hungry, were suffering. It spread to Honduras and Nicaragua, Brazil, different places, Argentina. And the cost and the toll on human beings was tremendous. The suffering that has caused. And who made that machine? Certain group of individuals that are called shadow government in NASA or in CIA that made the machine, or knew it was being made, or hired somebody to do it, or was supervising it, or was in cahoots with them, with the billionaires. Remember, it was the billionaires that got you, the American people, to pay for the satellites, and then the government just gave it to Google for GPS and Google Maps, and now they're making billions off of it, and we paid for it. And all this shuttles and stuff that was going in the air, we thought it was for space exploration. It was just to get these satellites in the air to have control over us. So they went through all the trouble to make this machine, to steal elections, to make them communism, to make them socialists, to drain their money, to hurt the people. Are you going to vote for Chavez? Whoever you are, you do like Trump or you don't like Trump. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm talking to you, all you Democrats. Would you vote for Hugo Chavez, who bankrupted that country and now people are starving? Would you vote for that? Yeah, but that's not going to happen here. No, the same people that made that machine did it so they could take over Venezuela in a socialist takeover. The same people that are doing it here in America today. You think they're not going to want the same result? Do you think then that those people were bad? Those people who made these machines? I think so. So your best bet then is that Trump is president, because if Biden's president, we know that they'll hide that under the rug. That will be their modus operandus. From now on, you will never be able to vote again. You will be a slave forever and ever and ever, and you'll wear a mask and you go in your house and people will die. And bad things are going to be coming. Total control. That's what they did in Venezuela. That's what they do in China. They don't have any rights in China. You don't get a jury trial. Oh, we don't get it here anymore either. Well, I know, but at least we have the premise here, the Constitution, and that's what we're fighting for. So you see, if you think that Donald Trump's on their side, then why did they go through all the trouble to make it look like Donald Trump is fighting against them and they're the ones behind the scenes taking us over in a socialist takeover? If you don't want a socialist takeover, you better start paying attention. Listen, I sympathize with you up to this point. But now we're in the fight of our life. These people take over, these communists and socialists, because you refuse to vote. Because, well, they're all the same, Dave. I just don't feel like I'm going to vote, whatever. I don't like that fat redhead, and he's got freckles, and he's also a racist, and he's pig, and so therefore I'm just going to vote for Biden. You're going to be very, very sorry. Anyway, the vote's already over. But, so I'm not worried about your vote anymore. But I'm just trying to say this because I want you guys to think about the possibility in your mind that this illusion, sure, they could create illusions like aliens coming from the sky and the hologram, Project Bluebeam or whatever, all these things we've got in our heads. But how could they, or why would they? They're so good at manipulation and deception, and you think they're so good at it that unbeknownst to us, Trump's really in on it with him. Well, if they're that good, and I agree, they're pretty good. So good that they might be able to, with some invention with CERN or Project Bluebeam or whatever, that could really deceive the whole world, or 9/11, that was pretty good, right? But with all of that, don't you think they could have just done it without stealing the election? They could have just done that. If we all kind of like Trump anyway, why didn't they just do it? Because they had to get rid of Trump first because he was fighting against them. So for some reason or another, you think that those people that want us to be taken over and destroyed and imprisoned, they're behind that, and they're behind the group that doesn't want you to get destroyed. So they've got two groups that want to destroy you in two different ways, you're thinking, I guess, maybe? So that if Trump wins, yeah, he'll take away their demise and for America, and stop them from this world takeover. But then he's got another world takeover of his own, he's going to come in. Well, if that's the truth, we'll deal with that one when it comes. If after Trump is elected again, he says, that's it, I'm arresting all these people, and we're like, yay, but now, now that I've won, I'm going to take you all over myself, Then we're like, oh, no. Okay, then I'll be on your side. I'll be like, oh, you got to get rid of this guy now. But as of right now, all this guy is saying is, hey, they're trying to take you over in a socialist takeover, and the media won't even tell you that's going on, and I'm trying to tell you, but they won't even let me tweet on Twitter. They're saying everything I'm saying is a lie. We've told you that the machines are fraudulent, but they're saying we're lying. So I just don't know why anybody would think, well, the media is lying, but Trump's lying too. Remember when he said that his shoe size was a 10 when it's really 9.5? And remember when he said that there was 1 million people at his gathering and it was only 995,000,000? So he's a liar too. Maybe he was just, maybe the report's wrong and he was telling the truth. I don't know. But the point is, that's pretty small. Oh, remember when Trump was vulgar? Or, oh yeah, but he's got red hair. Okay, but wait. The entire world. You really want Pelosi to win? I'd like to wipe that smug little shaky smile off her face. I really don't like Schumer. His little smug Schumer. I've had enough of these Schumers and these Goldbergs and these Einsteins and Weinsteins and Epsteins. I've had enough of it. Thank you very much. I don't see how anybody could say that all of this election thievery, that they're trying at any cost to stop you from finding out it's happened, that you could then somehow think, well, they're both in on it. Anyway, that's how I feel. I don't even know if I've gotten that, if I explained it correctly. But I don't really know what words to use except for this picture in your mind, just painting this picture in your mind that all of these people were set into place to deceive us. And you can't go to the media and find out that these machines were fraudulent. You got to go to Newsmax or OAN. And maybe once in a while, Ingram will say something, but I doubt it. And if they manage to succeed, then we will never know that we don't have a democracy. And it turns out that the only way we will ever have a democracy is if Trump is elected and that we expose these machines. And then, of course, everything else that they've been doing, all the other stuff that we talked about, the CIA and the involvement, of the FBI and the involvement of the shadow government, the spying. It's not just those machines stealing the vote, but it's the Google machine stealing your mind. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go, friends. This is just my little rant for the day. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.